So I did it anyway, like a foolish mortal. And when I shouldn't have, and I knew that I shouldn't have because it wasn't right, but because I didn't want to be where I was at, because that environment, it was toxic. And like people say that toxic is like overly used, but the environment, it wasn't good. It When I first started, it was way different, and then it like declined rapidly, and I didn't want to be there anymore, and this was my out. So I was gonna take it, and I took it when I knew that I should not have taken it. So for all the people out there in the world, listen to your intuition. It's oftentimes, it's not like a negative force that's trying to um, steer you in the wrong direction. It's protection. It's protection. But I didn't listen. So I went to that foolish mortal place, and it was a disaster. So much so that I reported them to the Department of Labor, because it was a whole lot that went on that I ain't gonna talk about. But yeah, so that happened, and the other job, this agency, I had applied here before when I was working at my first professional job. And even with the other place, I had an interview, like another place had contacted me for an interview, but I canceled that interview to go with them when I should have. I should have just kept interviewing, because, I was getting some momentum. But this is my journey. So, excuse me, I had a hiccup, burp hiccup, whatever. So, I applied to this place before, but it was like for a different program under this agency. And I remember I went to the interview and they were late, right? The first time. And I was like, and I left the interview because I was like, because this is how I felt. I felt as though, like, it's one thing to contact the interviewee or the interviewer and say, because of XYZ, because yes, at times unforeseen circumstances do happen. Stuff beyond your control happens all the time. So, and sometimes you can't remedy that as quickly as possible. But at that moment, it felt like they didn't respect my time, so I left. Like, I contacted them, and then I didn't hear anything, so I left, right? Then they contacted me later, and then I did interview for them. But it was like a virtual situation, and then I didn't hear from them again. And I applied for like different things at that place, but nothing. But then after the first fiasco where my gut said don't do it, like it was like a very strong feeling, and like I said, my intuition is very strong for various reasons. So, like, oh, this go around, they contacted me, and when they contacted me, I had applied to so many jobs. I had to check because I was interviewing for certain things, and I had to like check to see if this was the actual position, because when they contacted me, the position, it seemed a bit different than what I had initially applied for, right? So, I went to it and I read about it, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. So, picked a date and a time. And I remember it was me and it was another girl, and we were there to interview. And we had a brief chat because she asked me, and they were late again. So the first time I interviewed was when I was still working at my first professional job after graduating and all of that stuff. and it was a different program under the same agency, but they were late. But they were late the first time because I believe they were like interviewing somebody, and it kind of I think it like rolled over, and they attempted to remedy that. This time we were sitting there, and we were waiting, and she was like blah blah blah, because it's like we waiting. We have an interview, right? They give you a time, but y'all are late to interview us. Like the people, we thought it would be one person interviewing us, but it actually wasn't her. It was other people. Like the girl went before I did to be interviewed. They were late to interview us. She went first, and then I went in. And when I went in, it was maybe like 5 people in there to complete the interview. One person, he didn't say anything. I should have known then that was a sign. I mean, I should have known when they were late, but anyway. Yeah. And I was a bit enthusiastic because I was like, yeah, like this is like criminal justice type stuff. So this would be a good experience before I go back to school. No. So that happened. I still was like doing whatever with other places, interviewing, and I had 2 other offers, and the other offers were in social services, and I did certain things, and one of the places actually both of them, they had started like the paperwork for like to start the hiring process, like checking my previous addresses and my previous places of residence, references, like, and stuff like that. And then one of them called me. Like the one process was a bit slower than others because I did fingerprinting for one, and then the other one, she was like ready, like we ready to start the hiring thing. And remember when I mentioned earlier about like people, when they see me, they tend like they underestimate me because of my demeanor. Like, so at this place, the one that was like a bit quicker in terms of the process, and she interviewed me, and then she wanted me to meet the supervisor or one of them. And then I was talking to him, and he was like, I don't know, I guess the things that I was saying, maybe it blew him away because he wasn't expecting it for one reason or another. And he basically said in so many words, like seeing me and then hearing me speak, and like the phrases I was using, and like the terms, like talking about, I guess, like psychological terms, like the psychology of certain things, and like this and that. He didn't expect that from me. Why not? So yeah, you had that, and then, but with the person who interviewed me, she was totally different. Like, she didn't say anything like that, but he said that. So this place, she was like ready, and I was like, what's taking them so long? And then I was like, listen, I got like, this is what's going on, but now I have an official offer, so what y'all gonna do, basically, but more professionally, of course. So they kind of sped things up a bit, right? But that, like, the feeling, my strong intuition, my sixth sense is what I call it, because it's a bit more than intuition. Anyway, it was like, don't do it. I had to convince myself to do it. The salary was trash. Um, I was overqualified. I had a graduate degree. This is the coast. And it was like, don't do it, don't do it. I had to talk myself into it because after she did whatever and she called me back and she told me the salary, I was like, I have to call you back. This is who me and the other girl, we had been in contact with her, so we were expecting her to be the one to interview us, but she wasn't. Anyway, I had to call her back and she was surprised. She was like, oh, okay. Because I had to talk myself into some BS when I should have just let it go. I should have said no. I should have declined the offer. But I was like, oh, like you're going back to school. You can do this for 1 year. Blah, 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 blah. So after I talked myself into committing to some foolishness for at least a year, I called her back and I said, I'll do it. And then I had to tell the other people, blah, 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 because I've accepted this offer when I shouldn't have accepted that offer. But, yeah. And then, I don't know. I really despised that place. Like with like everything in me. Like the way I feel about that place is stronger than how I feel about the second place. So, again, people, if all the time when something is trying to, or maybe even a person, if you have to convince yourself to do something, you shouldn't be doing it. That's what I'll say. So I did that, and then I started applying for school again, but even before that, like I applied for research programs. So after the first fiasco, I applied for research programs in 2018, but in Canada, because based on the research that I was doing, like criminology, in my opinion, it seemed to be a bit more popular in like Canada and like the UK and places like that. But criminal justice programs, like PhDs rather, was more, I guess, popular here. But I didn't want to do a criminal justice PhD. I wanted to do a criminology PhD, but I didn't want to do it under sociology, like do a sociology PhD and then have like criminal justice like be my focus. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do criminology flat out. So I applied to school in Canada. It wasn't the right time. I shouldn't have did it, and I wasted my money applying. You live and you learn. And I applied to Canada because, like I said, I felt like the programs that were like criminology was like, a thing, like very good over there. But there are criminology programs in the U.S. and there are some top schools that I had also contacted, because in actuality, if I would have applied to a U.S. school, I had a list of schools that I was considering in the U.S. and my top school in the U.S. was the University of Maryland, College Park, and that's because at the time they were #1 in criminology. They had the top criminology. They had I don't know why I keep wanting to say criminological, but they had the top criminology program in the U.S. And I was like, I was reading about it and I was like, I want to go here. But I don't know, something happened at the institution and it turned me off, and then I didn't want to attend a U.S. school anymore, and then I didn't want to have to take the GRE because after a certain time period you have to retake it. And I was like, I don't want to spend a lot of money retaking that if my scores expired, which they did, and I didn't want to have to pay no application fee either. So I don't know. I got more I got a bit more serious about applying to schools in the UK because I decided after the Canada situation, I was like, no, I'm not gonna apply to Canada. So in 2018, I did Canada. I wasted my money, but it wasn't the right time. That was my fault. And I should have known better because, like I said, when someone tells you to stop, you should listen to yourself. But I didn't. Um, so this go around, I was like, all right, PhD or bust, right? But a feeling came over me. The feeling where I feel like I always need experience, like I hadn't been in school for a long time, and I felt like I needed experience before applying to a PhD program. Like I needed a refresher.